Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Rocket Chiro Podcast, a business and marketing podcast for chiropractors. Welcome again to podcast number 6 in our series for new chiropractors and struggling chiropractors. In this particular episode, we're going to talk about relationships, the power of relationships, the importance of relationships, the expectation of relationships. This is really, really, really important because ultimately as chiropractors, you are in the people business, and the stability of your practice long-term has a lot to do with your ability to build quality relationships and maintain those relationships. Now, I will define that here in just a second, and this will just serve, like all the other podcasts in this series, as just an overview, something to think about, because you don't want to find yourself in practice. You've been 5 years, 6 years, 7 years into practice, and then you go, oh, wait a second, I've kind of been thinking about all this the wrong way. I've been thinking about relationships the wrong way, or I haven't been thinking about relationships at all. That's not where you want to find yourself, because this is one of those foundational things for your chiropractic practice. Now, before I get into that, I do want to say, if you want more help, check out my Next Step program at rocketchiro.com. If you want a better website, I'd love to help you out. Check out the Rocket Chiropractic websites at rocketchiro.com. rocketchiro.com. I did not pronunciate very well there. All right. So the thing about being a chiropractor is you're very much in the people business. And I'll tell you, it's actually one of the things that I didn't like about being a chiropractor. Not that I didn't like my people. It's just that I didn't realize how much being a chiropractor was going to kind of rub up against my introvert nature, because you're constantly meeting new people. You're constantly it's very much a people business thing. And one of the things that actually was very helpful for me as I was in practice and allow my practice to grow and become more stable and become more part of the community was building relationships within within the community itself. And that came through BNI and through meeting a person who introduces me to a person who introduced me to a person. I had some help with some of that. The flip side of that is some of the stuff that I did myself. It's difficult. It's difficult as an introvert, but there are ways around it. And that's really not the point of this podcast, is my own hangups. The thing that you have to understand is that whether you're dealing with people that are patients, people that are non-patients, other professionals, people that are past patients, even Google and social media followings, like those are relationships. And if you don't address them that way, if you don't understand that acting in a way that's building trust, acting in a way that is maintaining relationships long-term and allowing those relationships to be healthy, if that's not the approach that you're taking, you might start making the mistake of sacrificing a relationship for a quick sale, or sacrificing a long-term relationship for a close, or being a little bit too pushy. Sometimes extroverts can be a little bit too pushy, and they're sort of just slaying everybody. Some will, some won't. So what? Next, please. And they're just sort of plowing through everyone, instead of understanding that what you're doing within the context of the community and what you're doing within the context of networking and patients and everything else is building and maintaining relationships. Even if someone is not ever a patient of yours, it's entirely possible that someone could be a huge advocate of yours and never be a patient. And I'll give you a real life example of that. One of the people that was in my area who referred to me a lot was a realtor, and this realtor was never a patient of mine. She came into my practice one time at sort of a crisis situation. And I should say never a patient. That's actually not true. She came in one time. She never really saw the need for chiropractic. She did not ever see the need to see me as a chiropractor. And she ended up in a lot of pain, and she was in a crisis situation. She comes into my practice. It was a very strange thing. She essentially just walked in and she was in tears. My staff knew who she was because we had a relationship with her. And they come back and get me, and they're like, hey, so-and-so's here. She's crying, like filling out paperwork. And I basically bypassed all of the normal stuff that I would do. And I just went up to the front, took her by the hand, went to the back, sat down, hey, what's going on? And I tried to help her out a little bit that day, but the reality was it turned out she had something that really wasn't a chiropractic issue. She had to go have surgery and some other stuff that had to go on. So she really wasn't ever like a patient of mine other than that one day. Now, the reason I bring her up is because she was a raving fan of mine before that point. And then especially after that point, the care that we did with how I took care of her that day, how I tried to help her, how I tried to give her some advice and just sort of helped her through that crisis. She would go around telling everybody, I'm just the greatest chiropractor in the world. Like I would get referrals from her on a regular basis, and she was never really ever a patient of mine. So to think that everyone has to be a patient. And I think that this is a mistake that chiropractors will make within the context of they'll go to a BNI meeting, they'll go to a chamber meeting. That's like, I'm going to meet other business owners. I'm going to meet people in my community. And they go into those situations saying to themselves, I'm going to get more patients. And don't get me wrong, you need more patients. And a lot of those people that you meet will become patients. But if you go into those situations saying to yourself, the objective here is to sign up a new patient, to close someone, instead of the objective is to establish good relationships and to connect with people, with ultimately having new patients and getting new patients from the people that you can actually help. Like that should be, that needs to be part of the process, but I don't think it needs to be the engine to the train. It just needs to be one of the carts. It needs to be one of the cars in there that you need to be aware of the fact that you're getting new patients. You need to be asking, taking people through that process. You need to be closing someone for lack of a better term. It just doesn't need to be the only kind of primary and sole reason why you're going out and doing these things. Because if that's the case, you're missing the opportunity to have relationships with people that could be your advocate and could be a huge asset to your practice, although they're not ever a patient. So let me kind of just summarize a few thoughts about relationships. I already said this, but I'm going to say it again. Relationships are built on trust. If you are untrustworthy, and some chiropractors, and listen, a lot of people don't trust chiropractors because we've been untrustworthy. We've done shifty things over the years. I think that chiropractic has raised its standards over the last few years. Hopefully it continues to raise its standards, and we have less and less chiropractors who are doing shifty things. And as a result of that, hopefully our profession becomes more trusted across the board. That's what I'd love to see. That starts with you. Be trustworthy. You obviously can't control the other chiropractors in your town. Be trustworthy. If you want to have relationships, be trustworthy. Another one is they take time. The important thing to understand about relationships is business relationships, doctor-patient relationships, all of those things. These relationships, most people, you do not go from like a 0 where you don't even know each other to like a 10 out of 10 tight bond relationship. The type of person you just can't get rid of even if you wanted to. Like just the ride or die people in your life. You generally don't make that jump. The reality is that some people you sort of connect with quicker than others. Some people, those relationships kind of evolve over time. Some people you just never get there. You can just sort of miss each other. You just don't connect. There's just something there that sort of keeps that relationship from bonding. But the reality is that all of them take time. And if you expect to like show up at a BNI meeting and everybody's going to be your patient, and sort of some of this is because of chiropractic coaching. Like chiropractic coaching, you'll hear people say like, oh, I did this talk and there were 10 people there and I signed up 15 because all 10 people signed up, and then they signed up 5 more people. They weren't even in the room. I don't know how that happens. And maybe that's a thing that really does happen. In my experience and the experience of pretty much everyone, I would say everyone that I've ever worked with, that's just not reality. That's not typical. It doesn't even seem like that would be normal behavior for any situation where you're not just giving away money. It's like, I suppose if you were like, hey, sign up for this and you'll get, I don't know, I'll give you this $100 bill like right now. I don't know what scenario where everybody signs up and they sign up other people that aren't even in the room. That doesn't seem to be normal. And if you go into a situation expecting that to happen, you're going to be really disappointed. You're going to be really upset. So you have to understand that all relationships take time. The other thing I'll say is this, and this isn't even in my notes. I say this a lot when I talk to my coaching clients, is that every relationship starts with a hi, with a hello. Like that's how they all start. So whether this is going to be the best friend you've ever had in your entire life, your greatest networking partner, whatever, or this is going to be somebody that you meet a couple times and that's it. And that's, you see you know their face, they know your face. That's it. No matter where you are on the scale, those relationships start with a hello. They start with a greeting of some sort. And if you think that you're going to know right away within like 10 minutes where that person falls on the scale long term, you're really going about it the wrong way. And the extremes are obviously you meet with somebody once or twice and you just say, we're not, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. You're sort of giving up too quick. The other extreme is you meet with someone and you're like, hey, are we best friends? And it's like too much too soon, where it's like, easy, big fella. It's like, why are you suffocating me? Like that sort of thing. So you don't want to do either one of those extremes. Relationships take time. They take multiple exposures. You got to give people a little bit of grace. You got to give it a little bit of time to see where things are going to go. Let's just talk about the kind of relationships you have. So the relationship with your patient is a doctor-patient relationship. I say all the time that retention is maintaining the doctor-patient relationship over a long period of time. That's what retention is. So if somebody comes in once a year for 15 years, that's 15 years of retention. That's good retention. It may not be a good PVA, but it's a good retention because that person has stuck with you. You're their chiropractor. They stuck with you for 15 years. That's what retention is. So you have a doctor-patient relationship. You are a leadership. We talked about leadership already with the podcast before. You're the leader in that position, but it is a relationship, doctor-patient relationship. That's the one you have with your patient. Non-patients is going to be your community at large. This is going to be, what is your reputation within the community? When you do a really good job of this, you'll have people refer to you. This is true for medical professionals as well, that people you've never met. They've just heard good things about you. And this is something I noticed later in my practice life. It probably been 7 years in practice before this really started happening, where we would get referrals from people and they'd be like, oh, so-and-so sent me in. And we'd be like, oh, tell them we said thanks. Like, we don't know who that is. And it was an indication that we had built a tremendous amount of trust within the community, that people felt comfortable referring to us purely based on our reputation. So that is essentially building trust and building relationships with the community at large. And we did a lot of community events and things like that. So there's ways to do that. That's not the point of this podcast. Other professionals, so medical professionals, business owners, things of that nature, you could do that structured like BNI. You could do it unstructured, like meeting the people that are around you, interacting with your patients, doctors and professionals. There's a lot of different ways of doing it, but the reality is building relationship with other professionals can be great. The crazy thing about this is that, and this is why I sort of started out by saying this can be a foundational thing, is you don't have to have relationships. You don't have to have like a 10 out of 10, like nailing all of these perfectly to have it really impact your practice. And sort of the last thing that I would say on here is that I put on here is not all relationships are the same, and that's okay. You actually you may have really, really good relationships with the medical professionals in your area and you're not very involved in the community as a whole. You're not very involved online, because that was the other one I was going to mention, is your online community. And you could have a very, very successful practice and you're just networking with like lawyers and medical doctors and things of that nature. On the flip side of it, I've talked about the Instagram chiropractors, and it's so, some chiropractors are huge online nowadays, and you could have a huge online following and have those relationships online, but none of the medical doctors in your area know who you are. Like, none of the coaches that do like, youth coaching and things like that, none of them know who you are. None of the moms groups or anything like that. Like, nobody knows who like, you're just you're big online. Like, you're just known online and you're just really killing it in that area. So I'm not saying you have to be strong in all of these areas. I'm just saying that there's a lot of different areas where you can build relationships. They're not all going to be the same, and it's okay. But when you hit a home run in one of these areas, it can absolutely change your career. it can not only help you be a successful practice, this is very stable. Unless you're a bonehead and you just do dumb things, this is very stable because it's built on trust and it's built on relationships and it's built on people. And it's just not something you want to overlook. And because those relationships take time, you really want to start going about how you do business in all aspects of your practice with this in mind, so that 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, you can really benefit from it. Because if you are 7 or 8 years into practice and you've never considered this, you've never tried to build relationships, you've never online, offline, professionals, whatever, like you've never done any of that, you now have to get some snow together to build up some momentum, get the ball rolling down the hill. You know, there's just, you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to plant some seed before you reap the harvest. And it could be a huge harvest. So this is such a huge thing, such an important thing. You got to get your mind right around relationships. They are super important for chiropractors, and they can absolutely be a cornerstone of your practice. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for listening to the series. There's a few more podcasts coming. We're going to talk about a few more topics. Hopefully this is helpful. Like I said, if you want more help, check out my Next Step program. If you want a better website, check out the Rocket Chiropractic websites. I'd love to help you however I can. I'll talk to you on the next episode. See ya.